It's Dominique. So what you learned in the last video is that we're going to try and make a children's sock. This is for my 10-month-old, and what we did was we started the tube part, which you can make a short one if you wanted to make ankle socks, or you can make a longer one so it fits and stays on the child's leg. And what you did was you used your double pointed needles. You're going to use all 5 needles, 1 as a working needle and 4 for your work itself. So here's my ribbing. I cast on 11 stitches per needle, total of 44, knit 2, purl 2, repeat all the way around to get a nice rib. So as you can see, you have your knit 2, the higher bumps, and then the ones that are dipped in a little bit like a valley, those are your purl 2s. So the best way to know that it's the same length is you could measure your original, or you could count the rows individually, count all the V's. I'm kind of winging it and I'm just guessing, so that's that. So make sure you complete the full round, and you'll know that you finished a round because you still have that little bit of yarn from when you first cast it on as a guide. So you just finished your ribbing, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go and do this part. It's not quite the heel, like it's not the splitting for the bottom part of the foot. Here you'll see a little bit better if I stretch it out for you. So we're not making this part, we're just making the part behind it. And this part is very easy. So you're going to knit 11 stitches. So go ahead and start doing that. So we're not doing the ribbing anymore because we have the desired length. So now we're just going to knit 11 stitches. It's important to make sure you have 11 stitches on each needle and an even number of stitches in total when you're knitting a sock. Excuse me. So that is 11, and I just noticed I just dropped some stitches, so just one moment. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Just going to pick up my work before it falls. And what you can do now is start knitting the next needle, only knit, no purl. And then we get to move on to the fun part. Oh dear. If you drop stitches, it's really handy to have a crochet hook to help fix it. And there's another video out there by the Dummies collection, like how to crochet and knit for dummies, and their video is excellent. I strongly recommend it for how to fix and pick up stitches, because I'm doing it all the time, especially with these metal needles. And you can buy these little plastic caps that go on either end of your double pointed needle, so that way your stitches don't slip off when you're not working on them or when you're traveling. Or you could use them with your double pointed needles as well. Okay, there, finally. That's why it's always best to keep your stitches in the center of your needle if you're not using them. Okay, sorry about that. So I just knit the first 11, and now I'm going to knit another 11 or another needle. So knitting only, no purling. You may want to grab a pen and a piece of paper because you need to keep track of what you're doing, and if you're not very good at counting rows, I strongly recommend like writing each step you take down. Okay, so knit 11 here, knit 11 here. Now we're going to purl, but the way we're going to purl is pretty cool. You're going to flip your work, and here's your working yarn. Put that to your left, and this is how you're going to purl. Because when you're looking inside your work, it's considered the wrong side. I'm sorry, it's considered the wrong side. So this is how we're going to purl. You do the same thing, needle downward, yarn over, and slip it off. So you're purling your work, purling the previous two needles, the one you just worked and the one before it, and you're going to do that a total of 11 times. So you're going to knit, if you do your knitting, when you're knitting both, or we'll call it a row to make it easier, so you're going to do in total 11 rows. So 1 row of knitting, 1 row of purling, 1 row, etc., until you reach 11 rows in total. So it's not 11 of purling, 11 of knitting, it's 11 in total. And the reason why you're doing 11 is because that's the amount of stitches that you started with per needle. So if you are doing an adult sock, say 18 stitches per needle, for a total of 64 stitches, then you would do 18 times, or 18 rows of just knitting and purling back and forth. Okay, so I just finished purling, and you'll see the bumpy part is on the inside, and on the outside of the sock is all you're going to see is what looks like knitted stitches. So you just finished this one. Now you're going to go onto this one and do the same thing. And I somehow just made a mistake and went from 4 needles down to 3, but it is fixable. So what I'm going to do, let me just see here. So I know I have 22 stitches on this needle because it's 11 for each. So I'm going to move some of these ones off that I don't need as part of the heel. So to move stitches off, or slip stitch as you may read it, you do not want to do this as if you're knitting and then taking it off. Never ever, don't do that unless it specifies, which is rare. You're going to do it, slip it off as if you're purling. So you take your needle, insert as if you're purling, but you do not purl, and then you slip it off. So I'm going to do this 11 times. So just pay attention, make sure you're using 4 needles plus a working needle. It just makes things easier and more spread out if you're using more needles. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, one more is 11. And the reason why you don't want to, as if you're knitting, and slip off a stitch that way, it starts to twist your stitches as you're doing your work, so it kind of looks a little messy if you really look at it. Okay, so back to where I was. Now I'm going to take my 5th needle, the working needle, and I'm going to purl. So we're only working with 2 needles right now. with stitches. The other two, we'll deal with them later. What I just pushed off was just a loose strand. Not a yarn over, but because the yarn is made up of several strands bound together, sometimes they separate. That's all it was. Okay, and one more purl. Nope, two more purls. Okay, so we just did 2 rows. We did 1 row of knitting and 1 row of purl. So now we're going to turn our work back and we're going to start again knitting. So we're going to knit the 2 needles, then we're going to purl the 2 needles by flipping our work backwards. So keep doing that until you've done it for 11 rows in total, and then check back with me and we'll move on to the heel, which really is not hard. It's the simplest pattern I've seen around. A friend of mine, she runs a yarn store in Jyväskylä, Finland, where I'm living presently, and she showed me this pattern. It's great, it's easy. I've never knit a sock in my life before. This is my first sock ever. And there's no turning of the heel. There is some picking up of stitches, but once again, that's easy, and hopefully I'll be able to help you go through it as smoothly as possible. So keep working your knit rows and your purl rows back and forth 11 times in total, and I'll see you at the heel. Thanks for watching.